What does the acronym USB stand for?
Bro, where is this voice coming from?
5, 4, 3.
Universal Serial Bus?
Wrong. It stands for Universal Serial Bus.
Who are you? What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode number 14 of Everyday Python Projects. Today's video is pretty quick compared to my last video, which was like 20 minutes long. That said, in that 20 minutes, you do learn how to save quite a bit of money, so you can check it out right there. Please. For this project, we're going to get better at trivia by sending ourselves 5 questions with their answers every 30 minutes by email. We'll be able to do this in 2 parts. Part 1 is where we collect the data. Part 2 is where we'll email ourselves the questions and answers. Surprisingly, there's actually a very small amount of code that we need to write, so let's get into it.
Just like we do in every other video, let's begin by importing the libraries that will make this project work. I was able to find 249 trivia questions and answers from this website, so I'll scrape it using Beautiful Soup. Now that we have our soup, we need to extract the questions and answers separately from this page. I checked the HTML and I saw that the questions were located in a strong tag that was located within a paragraph tag. So I can write the following list comprehension to extract the questions. Now this part right here, re.search, is regex, which stands for regular expression. So regex is a way to search through text using a very specific search parameter. When you type Control F or Command F on a web browser, you're actually very limited as to how you can search for the text you're looking for. For example, let's say that you wanted to look in the Word document for all words that are 4 letters long and contain the letter A. You won't be able to do that with Control or Command F, but with regex, you can actually specify that specific pattern and then extract only those patterns from the text. So here, the regex pattern I'm looking for can be explained as follows. The caret symbol means starts with. The backward slash and letter D means any digit from 0 to 9. The plus sign means that there should be 1 or more digits, since you want to account for questions that have a single digit number and a double digit number before them, like this. Here we have a single digit, and here we have a double digit number. The period simply means look for a period after the number. And then the backward slash and esc with the asterisk means that there can be 0 or more white spaces after the period. We need to have an asterisk here instead of a plus sign because there are some questions that don't have a white space after the period. Additionally, since we wrote this as an if statement, it will only return the text if it is able to satisfy this regex pattern. Finding the answers will be much easier. We can just use list comprehension once again, but we do need to check if the capitalized word answer followed by a colon is in the paragraph tag. So here we're checking if answer with that colon is in the paragraph tag, then we'll take item.text for all of the paragraphs in soup. One thing to note, I did check to make sure that the questions and answers list that we have were of the same length, and it turns out there's an answer missing from our list answers. So if we were to run this, we can see questions is 249 elements long, but answers is 248 elements long. Since I was looking at the webpage already, I was able to write this piece of code. So this will zip 248 of the 249 questions and answers together. Then I looked through the webpage to see what answer didn't make sense. This would be where our missing answer should go because this list is in the same order as the questions and answers on the website. So we know if an answer doesn't make any sense at all, that's exactly where the issue is going to be. After a couple of minutes of trial and error, I was able to determine that the 69th element was missing the correct answer for the 69th question. So I inserted the answer from the website like so. Now we can zip the questions and answers together permanently and then save it to a CSV. So we can get rid of this previous zip that we have right here and replace it with the following. And now we have our new zipped list as well as our CSV. So let's run this and save it. Okay, looks like our CSV was saved.
That's it for part 1. Now we just need to split our questions and answers into groups and send all of that in an email.
Normally, we can just comment out the rest of this code since we already got our questions and answers in a CSV. You can even write a new script to do this part, but to make things less complicated, I'll keep things the way they are for now. First, we need to read our CSV into a data frame and then turn that data frame into a list of lists with both the question and answer in each element. So let's write this out. Now, if we run all of this and check to see Q&A, we can see as we scroll through this is indeed a list of lists since each element in this larger list is a separate individual list. Now, within these individual lists are two sub-elements that are separated by a comma, and those two elements are the column values for a particular row of the data frame that we just read. Now, it wouldn't really make sense to email this all at once. We normally want to learn a little bit of information at a time, so we can take this list and separate it into groups of 5 with the following function. So this function will take in an iterable object. In this case, it will be our list Q&A. And it creates a list of n iterators out of that list we just passed in. An iterator here just means it becomes an object we can quote unquote step through in order to perform some kind of action. Then it uses zip longest to create a tuple where the ith element in that tuple comes from the ith iterable argument. That was probably way too complicated, so let's try and visualize this. So each of these rows with numbers 1 through 9 will be turned into an iterator. If we want to create groups of 5, zip longest will create a tuple where the first item in the tuple comes from list 1, and it will be this value. The second item in the tuple comes from list 2, and it's this element. The third item in the tuple comes from list 3, and it's this element, and so on and so forth. And it will keep doing this until it reaches the size that we specified, which in this case we'll set it as 5. When it creates a tuple of 5 elements, it will then return that tuple since it's the largest size tuple. Remember, we're using zip longest. And then it will start over again with the rest of the items in the list. So the first tuple will have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then for this second tuple, the first item is going to come from list 1, but in this case it's going to be 6. The second element in tuple 2 will come from the second list, which is item number 7, and so on and so forth. So we can see that with our numbers 1 through 9, we won't get 2 even groups of 5. We'll have 1 group of 5 and 1 group of 4. The reason this happens is because we set this fill value equal to none. That way, when there's a tuple with a number of items less than 5, it won't add a 5th element to the tuple. It will just keep it at 4 elements. Were I to set the fill value to equal something like the letter X, then the second tuple would have elements 6, 7, 8, 9, and X, which is exactly what we don't want. We don't want to add any other values other than what we currently have. We'll only get a tail like this at the end of our list, but having this built-in Python code reduces the number of mistakes we might make trying to account for this tail ourselves. Finally, QA groups turns the iterable into a list so that we can actually access the elements inside of it. Look at the first element in QA groups. So we can see there are indeed 5 elements here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and each element has the question and the answer, so we got exactly what we were looking for. We can also check if we have a tail by looking at the last element. And here we do in fact have a tail. There's only 4 items here, and that's fine because we don't want to add anything extra. Instead of using the library scheduler, I figure I can just write this as a for loop and have it sleep for 1800 seconds, which is 30 minutes at the end of the loop. So QAS will be each group of 5 elements in QA group, including the tail that we'll have. I use the email message library to create our message, and the subject will say trivia time. I'll be sending this from my garbage email account, and it'll be sent to myself. Now, this part right here for question group, it extracts the questions from QAS, which remember is the group of 5 questions and answers we're using in this loop. It turns those questions into a string, and then it adds 2 new lines after each question to make it easier to read. Once I send the email, this will make a lot more sense. Answer group does the exact same thing for the answers. Message.setContent will take in question group as a string, append 10 new lines, and then write the answers in answer group as a string. And the last set of code sends the email through Gmail server and sleeps for 30 minutes. Make sure to turn on less secure app access if you're using Gmail like so. Go to myaccount.google.com/less-secure-apps. Click that button. When it turns blue, you know it's on. And you'll get an email saying critical security alert, just notifying you that less secure app access was indeed turned on. Okay, let's test this out. So it looks like everything ran. And let's check our email. Perfect, we have our question right here. It says trivia time. Each of our questions are spaced 2 lines apart. That's what those backward /n's were for. And the questions are separated from the answers with enough space that we won't accidentally see the answers, especially if we're looking at this on a phone. So all in all, I would say that this is definitely a win.
There you go, that was a super quick way to get some practice with trivia, and to remind ourselves that we should be practicing throughout the day. If you find other websites with several hundred questions and answers, you should be able to do this in a similar way. Just make sure to check out the HTML beforehand so you have a total understanding of how the page is outlined. Otherwise, our calls to get those specific tags won't end up retrieving the right information. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.